The mining facility on Mars stood silent against the rust-colored horizon. Director Sarah Chen stared through the reinforced viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the strange lights descending through the thin Martian atmosphere. The facility's sensors had picked up the approaching vessels hours ago, but nothing in humanity's database matched their signature. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. "7 vessels, Director. Size comparable to our largest mining ships, but the energy readings." Marcus trailing off, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "They're like nothing we've ever seen." The Craxian ships, though humanity didn't know their name yet, moved with perfect precision, their crystalline hulls refracting the distant sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. They were beautiful in their alien symmetry, a testament to thousands of years of technological evolution that humanity had yet to achieve. Inside the lead vessel, High Commander Vexthor observed the primitive human installation through multiple sensory feeds. The Craxian Empire had encountered countless species in their methodical expansion across the galaxy, each catalogued, analyzed, and ultimately incorporated into their grand design. These humans, with their crude structures and inefficient technology, seemed no different from the others. "Biological scan complete," High Commander reported Second Analyst Zerura, her crystalline appendages interfacing directly with the ship's systems. "The creatures show signs of rapid technological advancement, but their neural patterns are chaotic, unpredictable." Vexthor's sensor clusters pulsed with mild concern. Unpredictability was antithetical to the Craxian way. Their empire had been built on precision, on the careful calculation of every possibility. These humans, with their disordered minds and haphazard development, represented something the Craxians had rarely encountered, a variable they couldn't fully quantify. Back in the Mars facility, Sarah watched as the alien ships took up position around the installation. Their formation was perfect, too perfect. It spoke of a level of coordination that sent a chill down her spine. "Director, they're broadcasting something," Marcus announced. It's interfacing with our systems, somehow." The facility's displays flickered, and then geometric patterns began appearing, complex mathematical sequences that Sarah recognized as some form of communication attempt. But before their linguists could begin decoding the message, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Multiple breaches detected," Marcus shouted. They're scanning everything. Our databases, our systems, our—" "Lock it down," Sarah ordered, but it was too late. The Craxian ships had already bypassed their security protocols as if they were children's puzzles. What the Craxians couldn't understand with their rigid logical frameworks, was that humanity's greatest strength lay in their apparent chaos. As the aliens methodically downloaded the facility's databases, they missed the subtle activation of Emergency Protocol Omega, a last resort measure that Sarah had helped design. The protocol wasn't in any official database. It existed in fragments, pieces of code hidden in maintenance logs, personal files, even game software. As the Craxians completed their efficient data extraction, this hidden protocol was quietly sending a warning to Earth, encoded in ways that no logical system would think to look for. High Commander Vexthor observed the humans' primitive defensive measures with something akin to pity. "Begin the standard integration procedure," he ordered. "These humans will benefit from proper guidance, as all species do." But as the Craxian ships prepared to deploy their integration protocols, a process that had worked flawlessly on countless worlds, something unexpected happened. The mining facility's reactor core began behaving in ways that defied the Craxians' predictive models. "High Commander, the energy patterns are not conforming to any known configurations," Zura reported, her crystalline appendages flickering with agitation. Sarah Chen stood calmly at her viewport, watching as the Craxian ships reacted to the facility's apparent malfunction. She knew what was coming. The reactor wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what it was designed to do, in a way that no logical species would ever consider sane. "Send the message," she ordered quietly. Marcus hesitated for just a moment before broadcasting the simple audio transmission. Welcome to humanity's first line of defense. The reactor core, modified in ways that violated dozens of safety protocols and engineering principles, detonated. But instead of a standard explosion, it released a carefully crafted surge of electromagnetic energy, calibrated specifically to interact with the crystalline structure they had observed in the alien ships. The Craxian vessel's perfect formation wavered for the first time as their systems encountered something they had never been programmed to handle: controlled chaos, weaponized unpredictability. Impossible, Vex Thor stated, watching as his ship's crystal matrices began to resonate in ways their designers had never anticipated. Their technology is inferior. Their methods are illogical. The Mars facility was lost in the detonation, but Sarah Chen and her crew had already evacuated through hidden tunnels that didn't appear on any official blueprints. As they boarded their emergency shuttle, Sarah sent one final message to Earth. First contact achieved. They're advanced, but predictable. We can work with that. The Craxian ships retreated, their perfect formation broken, their crystalline hulls showing microscopic fractures from the unexpected resonance. As they fled, they transmitted their findings to the Empire. Humans were not just unpredictable, they were deliberately, dangerously so. And in that moment, the galaxy's balance of power began to shift, though few yet realized it. The Craxian Empire had encountered something new, a species that turned chaos into strategy, that weaponized their very unpredictability. The war that would shake the stars had begun, not with a grand battle, but with a single act of calculated insanity that no logical species would have ever conceived. Humanity had made its first impression on the galaxy, and it was exactly as planned. They were dangerous not because they were powerful, but because they were willing to do what no rational species would ever consider. The game had begun, and humanity was playing by rules the Craxians didn't even know existed. In the months following the Mars incident, Earth appeared vulnerable. Planetary defense systems remained conspicuously primitive, cities lay seemingly unprotected, and human space traffic continued its irregular patterns. To the Craxian Empire's vast intelligence network, humanity looked exactly like what they'd initially assessed: a technologically inferior species awaiting proper guidance. But beneath this carefully crafted image of weakness, humanity was changing. Deep within the asteroid belt, hidden mining operations had been transformed into weapons factories. Civilian ships made seemingly random course corrections that, when viewed over months, slowly positioned a guerrilla fleet throughout the solar system. Admiral James Rodriguez stood in the command center of Shadow Base Alpha, a facility carved into the dark side of Luna that didn't exist on any official records. Holographic displays showed the movements of Craxian scout ships at the edge of the solar system, their patterns as predictable as clockwork. "They're mapping our patrol routes," his XO, Commander Maya Patel, observed, "looking for gaps in our defense network." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "They're mapping exactly what we want them to map." Project Phoenix, humanity's response to the Craxian threat, wasn't a single weapon or strategy. It was a complete reimagining of warfare. Traditional military doctrine suggested concentrating force, establishing clear chains of command, and maintaining strategic reserves. Humanity did the opposite. In secret bunkers beneath Earth's cities, quantum computers ran simulations based on the data gathered from the Mars encounter. The Craxians' crystalline technology, their perfect formations, their absolute adherence to logic. These weren't just traits, they were potential weaknesses. Latest test results from Project Chaos, Maya reported, bringing up a new holographic display. The electromagnetic resonance weapons are exceeding expectations. The random frequency modulation makes them practically impossible to shield against. But weapons were only part of the preparation. Humanity's greatest innovation was in its approach to command and control. Instead of a rigid military hierarchy, they developed what they called the Hydra Protocol, a system where every ship, every unit, every soldier could operate independently, while still contributing to the overall strategy. In a remote facility in the Atacama Desert, Dr. Elena Santos worked on perhaps the most crucial element of humanity's defense. The quantum entanglement communication system she developed didn't just encrypt messages, it transmitted them through controlled chaos, using patterns so random that no logical system could predict them. The Craxians will expect us to develop better weapons, she explained to her team. They won't expect us to change the fundamental nature of how we fight. On the surface, life continued normally. News networks reported on sports events and celebrity gossip. Social media remained filled with cat videos and viral memes. But hidden within this digital noise was a constant stream of military communications, training protocols, and strategic updates. The Craxian observers watched all of this, meticulously cataloging what they saw as primitive entertainment and inefficient information sharing. Their logical minds couldn't conceive that humanity would hide its military preparations in plain sight, using the very chaos they dismissed as weakness. In orbit around Jupiter, the first of humanity's new ghost ships took shape. These vessels were designed to be impossible, to break every rule of proper spacecraft design. Their hulls were asymmetrical, their power signatures deliberately irregular. They were ships built not just to fight but to confuse, to introduce chaos into the perfect order of Craxian battle formations. They won't understand what they're seeing, Admiral Rodriguez explained to the first ghost ship crews. Their sensors will tell them our ships shouldn't be able to fly, that our maneuvers shouldn't be possible. That confusion, that moment of logical uncertainty, that's our advantage. The ghost ships were just the beginning. Earth's factories, hidden beneath the guise of civilian industry, produced weapons that defied conventional military logic. Instead of trying to match the Craxians' superior technology, humanity developed countermeasures that exploited their rigid thinking. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple states until observation collapsed their waveform. Electronic warfare systems that transmitted garbage data in patterns designed to trigger recursive loops in crystalline computing matrices. Stealth systems that didn't try to hide ships but instead made them appear to be in multiple places simultaneously. In the belt, miners turned soldiers trained in what they called chaos tactics. Traditional space combat doctrine called for efficient use of delta V for conservation of momentum. These crews learned to fight in ways that no logical species would consider, using gravitational slingshots and powered explosions to achieve impossible trajectories. The Craxian Empire continued its methodical preparation for what they saw as a simple integration operation. Their massive fleets assembled at the Empire's borders, their formations perfect, their strategies optimized by millennia of successful conquests. But they didn't see the real preparation happening throughout the solar system. They didn't understand that every apparent weakness they observed was carefully crafted, every gap in defense precisely calculated, every primitive technology a carefully constructed facade. As the day of invasion approached, Admiral Rodriguez stood again in Shadow Base Alpha, watching the Craxian fleet movements. "They're following exactly the pattern we predicted," he noted, "right down to the formation spacing." Maya nodded, "Because it's the logical thing to do." "And that's why we'll win," Rodriguez replied. "Because we're prepared to do the illogical." The silent preparation was almost complete. Humanity had spent months appearing weak while growing strong, appearing chaotic while achieving perfect coordination, appearing primitive while developing weapons that would change the nature of warfare itself. The Craxians were coming, their mighty fleet prepared to face what they thought was a primitive species in need of guidance. They had no way of knowing that humanity had transformed their greatest perceived weakness, their unpredictability, into their greatest weapon. The stage was set for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, a conflict that would prove once and for all that logic wasn't always the path to victory. Humanity was ready to teach the galaxy a lesson about the power of controlled chaos. The Craxian invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their crystalline ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. 5,000 vessels strong, It was a force that had subjugated dozens of civilizations. High Commander Vexthor stood at the command center of his flagship, sensor clusters pulsing with anticipation of an easy victory. "Begin standard conquest protocol," he ordered. "The humans will learn the benefits of proper guidance." But as the fleet began its advance, something strange happened. Their long-range sensors detected human ships approaching. Except these vessels seemed to defy the laws of physics. Their power signatures fluctuated wildly, their trajectories made no logical sense, and their very existence seemed to challenge everything the Craxians understood about spacecraft design. "High Commander," Zura reported, her crystalline appendages flickering in distress. "Our targeting systems cannot establish lock. The human vessels appear to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously." The ghost ships, humanity's first line of defense, were performing exactly as designed. Their quantum uncertainty drives created multiple probability shadows, making it impossible for the Craxians' logical targeting systems to determine their true positions. But this was just the beginning. Admiral Rodriguez, watching from Shadow Base Alpha, gave the order that would change the nature of space warfare forever. Execute Operation Pandemonium. Throughout the solar system, hidden transmitters activated. The seemingly random electromagnetic noise that humans had been broadcasting for months suddenly changed. What had appeared to be typical civilian communications chaos resolved into carefully crafted patterns designed to interact with crystalline computing systems in ways their creators had never imagined. In the Craxian fleet, ship after ship began experiencing inexplicable system fluctuations. Their perfect formations started to waver as their navigation systems encountered data that triggered recursive logic loops in their crystalline processors. "Impossible," Vexthor stated, watching as his fleet's precision degraded. "Their technology is inferior. This cannot be happening." But it was happening. The ghost ships struck first, their quantum torpedoes phasing into existence inside Craxian shield perimeters. The weapons didn't try to overpower the advanced alien defenses. They simply ignored them, existing in quantum superposition until they materialized within the enemy vessels. Commander Maya Patel led the first wave of actual attacks, her flotilla of seemingly primitive mining ships revealing their true nature. What the Craxians had dismissed as inefficient designs turned out to be vessels optimized for chaos warfare. They moved in patterns that no logical species would consider, using gravitational assists and controlled explosions to achieve vectors that Craxian targeting systems classified as impossible. "They cannot maintain such inefficient combat patterns," Zura assured her commander. "Their ships will exhaust their fuel reserves." But the human vessels weren't fighting efficiently. They were fighting effectively. Every illogical maneuver forced the Craxian fleet to recalculate, their crystalline computers struggling to process combat scenarios that defied their fundamental programming. Deep within the asteroid belt, Dr. Elena Santos activated the next phase of humanity's defense. The quantum entanglement network came alive, coordinating the apparently chaotic movements of human forces into a symphony of controlled disorder. Each ship acted independently, yet somehow their random actions combined into devastating tactical patterns that the Craxians couldn't predict. The mighty alien fleet found itself in an impossible situation. Their superior technology, their perfect formations, their logical combat doctrine, everything that had made them invincible against countless other species now worked against them. They couldn't adapt to an enemy that refused to follow the rules of proper warfare. "Launch the logic bombs," Rodriguez commanded, unveiling humanity's secret weapon. The seemingly primitive missiles that human ships had been launching weren't just explosives. Each one contained a quantum processor programmed to broadcast mathematical paradoxes, problems that had no logical solution. As they detonated among the Craxian fleet, their crystalline computers were forced to attempt to solve these unsolvable equations. Craxian ships began shutting down as their systems encountered one paradox after another. The perfect formation that had entered the solar system dissolved into chaos. Ships collided as their navigation systems tried to plot courses using impossible mathematics. "Retreat," Vexthor finally ordered, his sensor clusters dim with disbelief. We must analyze this unexpected strategy. But retreat proved as difficult as advance. The human forces had seeded the Craxian fleet's exit vectors with gravitational mines, devices that created localized distortions in spacetime. The aliens' logical hyperspace calculations couldn't compensate for the random fluctuations in gravitational fields. From his command center, Rodriguez watched as the mighty Craxian fleet fractured. "Send the message," he ordered. On every frequency the Craxians could detect, in perfect Craxian mathematical language, humanity broadcasted their response to the invasion. "Your logic is sound, but incomplete. Consider this lesson one in a new kind of mathematics." The defeat of the Craxian fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had not just resisted the mighty empire. They had done so by turning the very foundations of Craxian superiority against them. But this was more than just a military victory. It was proof of concept for a new kind of warfare, one that didn't rely on superior technology or overwhelming force, but on the power of controlled chaos. Humanity had demonstrated that unpredictability, properly harnessed, could overcome even the most advanced logical systems. As the remaining Craxian ships limped back to Imperial space, they carried with them a message that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of warfare. Logic wasn't always the path to victory, and the species that everyone had dismissed as primitive had just rewritten the rules of combat. The war was far from over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their ability to match the Craxians' power, but in their willingness to embrace chaos as a weapon. News of the Craxian defeat spread through the galaxy like a shockwave. In the shadowy spaces between stars, representatives from species long dominated by the Empire began meeting in secret. They whispered about the impossible, a primitive race that had turned chaos itself into a weapon. The Craxian Empire's response was predictable. They launched a propaganda campaign declaring the defeat a minor setback, a statistical anomaly that would soon be corrected. But in the privacy of their crystalline chambers, the Imperial Council faced an uncomfortable truth. Their perfect systems couldn't adapt to humanity's unpredictable strategies. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his holographic presentation showing the latest intelligence. "The Craxians are adapting, but not fast enough. Their entire civilization is built on logical progression. They can't fundamentally change without destroying who they are." In deep space, the first signs of this truth were becoming apparent. Craxian patrol fleets encountered human ghost ships and immediately attempted to implement countermeasures based on their previous defeat. But humanity's vessels had already evolved, their quantum uncertainty drives now operating on principles that made their previous patterns obsolete. Dr. Elena Santos' quantum entanglement network had expanded beyond communication, becoming a vast web of controlled chaos that linked human forces across the solar system. Every time the Craxians developed a logical counter to human tactics, they found themselves facing an entirely new form of warfare. But the most significant change came from an unexpected quarter. A delegation of Arxur, a species known for their biological technology, secretly contacted Earth. Their ambassador, a being named Silvax, arrived in a living ship that pulsed with organic energy. "We have watched," Silvax told the Defense Council, their bioluminescent patterns shifting with excitement. "You fight as we always wished to fight, not with rigid forms, but with the fluidity of life itself." The Arxur had been subjugated by the Craxians centuries ago, their organic technology dismissed as inefficient compared to crystalline computing. But they had seen in humanity's chaos tactics a reflection of their own biological adaptability. Commander Maya Patel led the first joint human Arxur operation. Their living ships, merged with human quantum technology, created vessels that were nightmares of unpredictability. They could transform mid-battle, their organic hulls incorporating quantum uncertainty into their very structure. "They're not just ships anymore," Maya reported after the first successful test. They're evolving weapons, changing faster than the Craxians can analyze them. The Craxian Empire faced its worst nightmare, an alliance that combined humanity's chaos theory warfare with Arxer biological adaptation. Traditional crystalline computing couldn't process the patterns of ships that were simultaneously quantum uncertain and biologically mutable. In a desperate attempt to maintain control, the Empire launched its largest fleet yet, 10,000 ships strong, their crystalline hulls reinforced with new defenses designed to counter human tactics. But they were already fighting yesterday's war. The combined human Arxer fleet met them in the Proxima Centauri system. What followed wasn't just a battle. It was a demonstration of warfare's evolution. Living ships phased between quantum states, their organic weapons firing solutions that existed in multiple probability states simultaneously. "They have to see it now," Rodriguez said, watching the battle unfold. "The future of warfare isn't about perfect logic. It's about perfect adaptation." The Craxian fleet's formations, still geometrically perfect, shattered against an enemy they couldn't predict. Their crystalline computers, trying to calculate combat solutions, encountered patterns that were both biologically random and quantum uncertain. Ship after ship shut down as their logical systems encountered paradox after paradox. But humanity and the Arxer didn't press their advantage to destruction. Instead, they broadcast a message to the Craxian fleet in their own mathematical language. "Your empire is built on the assumption that logic conquers all. We offer a different equation, one where adaptation plus uncertainty equals survival." The impact of this battle reached far beyond military victory. Across the galaxy, other species began to see hope. The Craxian Empire's perfect logic had been their chain for millennia. Now, humanity had shown that chaos, properly harnessed, could shatter those chains. The Volok's, masters of plasma technology, were the next to secretly contact Earth. Then came the Zinthi, with their mastery of dark matter manipulation. Each species had been forced to suppress their natural innovations to fit within Craxian logical frameworks. Each now saw in humanity's success a chance to reclaim their own paths to advancement. In the heart of the Craxian Empire, the first signs of change appeared. Younger Craxians began questioning the rigid structures of their society. Some even dared to suggest that their species' devotion to pure logic had become a limitation rather than a strength. High Commander Vexthor, watching his mighty empire begin to fracture, finally understood. "We sought to impose order on a chaotic universe," he told the Imperial Council. "Instead, we should have learned to thrive within the chaos." The galaxy was transforming. Humanity's success had shown more than just military possibility. It had demonstrated that diversity of thought, of approach, of existence itself was not a weakness to be corrected, but a strength to be embraced. As more species joined what became known as the Adaptive Alliance, the balance of power shifted dramatically. The Craxian Empire found itself facing not just military defeat, but philosophical obsolescence. Their perfect order was crumbling before the power of controlled chaos. The tables had turned, but humanity and their new allies understood that victory wouldn't come through destruction. The real win would be teaching the galaxy, including the Craxians, that the future belonged not to those who imposed order, but to those who could dance with chaos. The Craxian homeworld, with its crystalline spires reaching into the purple sky, faced a moment unprecedented in its history. The Imperial Palace, once a testament to perfect geometric order, now reflected the chaos of a civilization in transformation. Before its gates, millions of younger Craxians gathered, their sensor clusters pulsing with frequencies that their elders had long deemed illogical. High Commander Vexthor stood before the Imperial Council, his once rigid posture now showing signs of adaptation. "The empire we built on perfect logic is dying," he declared. "But perhaps that death is necessary for our species to live." In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral Rodriguez and Commander Maya Patil monitored the situation alongside representatives from 24 species. The Adaptive Alliance had grown beyond anyone's expectations, each member contributing their unique approach to controlled chaos. "They're requesting a meeting," Maya announced, reading the transmission. "Not just the military command. The entire Imperial Council wants to talk." The chosen meeting place was symbolic, the Mars facility where the conflict had begun. Now rebuilt, it stood as a hybrid of technologies: human quantum systems, Arxur biological constructs, Volox plasma architectures, and Craxian crystalline engineering, all working together in beautiful discord. Dr. Elena Santos had transformed the facility's quantum communication array into something new, a system that could translate not just languages, but entire modes of thought between species. "It's fitting," she told Rodriguez. "This is where we first learned to weaponize chaos. Now we'll use it to forge peace." The Craxian delegation arrived in ships that would have shocked their ancestors. Gone were the perfect geometric forms, replaced by vessels that incorporated organic elements and quantum uncertainty fields. They had begun learning that adaptation wasn't surrender, it was survival. Silvax, the Arxur ambassador, observed the Craxian ships with their bioluminescence flickering in approval. They begin to understand. Life itself is chaos and order dancing together. The conference that followed would be remembered as the Convergence of Mars. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to reshape not just political boundaries, but the fundamental principles of galactic civilization. The Craxians, once enforcers of rigid order, now sought to learn from those they had dismissed as primitive or illogical. "We propose a new equation," Vexthor announced to the assembled delegates, his words translated through Santos's quantum network. "One that balances order with chaos, certainty with possibility, logic with intuition." The response came from an unexpected source. A young Craxian scientist named Rixera stepped forward, their crystalline form incorporating organic elements in a way that would have been heretical months earlier. "We have discovered that true strength lies not in imposing order, but in finding harmony within chaos." The adaptive alliance transformed into something greater, the Galactic Convergence. Each species contributed their unique perspectives and technologies. Human chaos theory merged with Craxian crystal computing. Arxur biological adaptation enhanced Volox plasma manipulation. Xynthi dark matter theories found new applications through quantum uncertainty principles. But perhaps the most profound change was philosophical. The galaxy began to understand that progress didn't come from enforcing a single way of thought, but from embracing the creative potential of controlled chaos. Admiral Rodriguez stood with Maya on the observation deck, watching ships of all species moving in patterns that were both ordered and chaotic. "We never needed to defeat them," he realized. "We just needed to show them a different way to be strong." The Craxian Empire, which had stood for millennia as a beacon of perfect order, evolved into something new. Their crystalline cities began incorporating organic elements, their rigid social structures became more fluid, and their once perfect military formations learned to dance with uncertainty. Dr. Santos' quantum network evolved beyond communication, becoming a galaxy-wide consciousness that allowed species to share not just information, but perspectives. Through it, the ordered mind of a Craxian could experience the creative chaos of human thought, while humans could understand the beautiful precision of crystalline logic. Humanity's role in the galaxy transformed as well. They became known not as conquerors or warriors, but as teachers of a new way of thinking. Earth's Chaos Academies attracted students from across the galaxy, all seeking to understand how to balance order and uncertainty in their own cultures. The Mars facility, where it all began, became the first Convergence Academy. There, species from across the galaxy learned to move beyond their natural tendencies, whether toward rigid order or complete chaos, and find strength in adaptation. The universe itself is neither ordered nor chaotic. Silvax often told new students, their bioluminescence creating patterns of infinite complexity. It is a dance between the two, and in learning this dance, we find our true power. As the years passed, the galaxy entered a new age of innovation and discovery. The combined knowledge of all species, freed from the constraints of any single approach, led to technological and social advances that would have been impossible under the old order. The war that had begun with a simple act of calculated insanity had ended by teaching the galaxy its greatest lesson. True strength lies not in imposing one's nature upon the universe, but in learning to thrive within its infinite variety. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating the Craxian Empire. It was showing the galaxy that chaos and order, logic and intuition, certainty and possibility were not opposites to be fought over, but complementary forces to be balanced and embraced. And in the vast darkness between the stars, ships of all species flew together, their movements forming patterns that were neither purely logical nor completely random, but something new, a dance of infinite possibility, a testament to the power of adaptation, and a promise of a future where diversity of thought and approach was not just accepted, but celebrated.